Codex Supplement Space Wolves outlined several epic heroes and characters that would be worthy of Jarlheim's great halls, let alone the tabletop. In this video, we'll take a look at two of the Space Wolves' epic heroes in the Great Wolf Logan Grimnar and his personal champion Arjac Rockfist, their positioning in the lore, review their datasheets, and army-wide synergy with stratagems and detachments. Welcome to myminigrimdark. The Space Wolves have never paid much heed to the Codex Astartes, and this indifference towards Robotic Ealdorman's Magnus Opus is reflected in their chapter organization and hierarchy. The Space Wolves value heroic deeds and achievements far beyond tactical prowess and training, and as such, the halls and corridors of the Fang on Fenris echo with the songs of young Bloodclaws and Iron Priests ascending to Wolfguard, even Wolf Lord status. Whilst I'll touch briefly on some of the stories attached to the epic heroes of the Space Wolves chapter represented in Codex Supplements Space Wolves, it's worth highlighting now that, since many of these characters were first thought up in the early editions of Warhammer 40,000, there's so much more opportunity to indulge yourself in their stories, and this is, for me, one of the real draws of collecting and playing Space Wolves in Warhammer 40,000. I've highlighted some of the available literature from Games Workshop and Black Library here, but if you've got lore considerations, favourite sources, or recommendations beyond this, please do share them in the comments for others. It feels like it would be disrespectful to start with any one Space Wolf other than the Great Wolf himself, Logan Grimnar. Logan Grimnar is the High King of Fenris, ruling over the chapter for 500 years, though he shows little evidence of his age and maintains a formidable martial prowess likened to his departed Primarch, Leman Russ. The endless tales of his accomplishments are impossible to summarise, but key moments include his interventions at Armageddon in the First War. During the conflict, he was disarmed in a battle against Chaos Lord Akar Doomflare, resorting to claws and teeth to rip the Chaos Lord's throat and take up his axe as his own. The axe was reforged in the Fang following the Space Wolves' victory on Armageddon, and Logan renamed it Morkai. It was later used to pierce the breast of Demon Primarch Magnus the Red, casting him back into the warp during the Battle of the World Wolf's Gullet. Only his champion, Arjac Rockfist, holds physical stature over Logan Grimnar, though the gigantic wolf pelt from the infamous Thunderwolf Fellclaw wrapped around Logan's shoulders may raise the Great Wolf above even his loyal servant and friend. To paint an accurate picture of Logan Grimnar and set him apart from many loyalist Space Marine heroes, the Great Wolf has been willing, when forced, to defend his chapter fiercely from threats from supposed allies just as much foes. Such is his honour that he laments the cruelty of other imperial institutions, and he has led his Space Wolves into battle against those that would threaten the chapter or civilian populations of worlds that he saved from demonic or alien foes. This has led to accusations from the Inquisition, allegations of treachery, heresy, and genetic deviancy. Yet the Fang stands unchallenged. The Administratum is aware of Logan Grimnar's willingness to meet foes, regardless of the banners that they bear, on the battlefield. They see the Space Wolves for what they are, much better fierce allies than powerful enemies. Before we dive into Logan's datasheet in earnest, if you want to see more of these videos, please drop a like and subscribe. If something comes to mind that I haven't considered while we work through the impact of the Space Wolves characters on the tabletop, drop a comment below, particularly if it might prove useful for others. Logan Grimnar is a melee force on the tabletop. At time of recording, he comes in at 110 points, and if he remains within this points region, I'd argue it's appropriate for his profile. His datasheet is that as a Wolfguard Terminator with the additional wounds you'd expect from an epic hero, movement 6, toughness 5, 2+ save, with an inbuilt 4+ invulnerable save, 8 wounds, 6+ leadership, and 1 OC. His range output is modest, with a standard Stormbolter. That's fine, you're not here for that. You want to know about Axe Morkai. You can go in with Axe Morkai in sweep mode or strike mode. In melee, this will be determined by the foe. For taking out large numbers of light infantry, sweep mode is going to be the perfect for cleaning up. 10 attacks, hitting on 2+, strength 6, AP -2, damage 1. If this hasn't dispatched the hordes, then Logan's Wolves, Tirnak and Fenrir come in with 6 attacks, hitting on 2+, strength 5, AP -1 and damage 1. This comes with the extra attacks trait. Anything toughness 4 is going to have to absorb a combined 16 attacks, hitting on 2s and wounding on 3s. Again, damage 1 means it's going to be reduced in efficiency against multi-wound opponents, but it will be enough to clear out a horde of smaller Tyranid infantry, guardsmen, or similar. For tougher foes, though, Morkai can hit with strike mode. This comes in at 6 attacks, hitting on 2+ with strength 8, -2 AP, and importantly, damage 3. This is going to help him swing up against tougher foes, monsters, or characters. He's not going to one-hit any titans. Logan Grimnar's glorious sculpt has a big profile, so whilst he should be able to hug terrain moving up the battlefield, he's also going to be a ripe target for ranged armies and easy to draw a line and sight on. This is relevant because although Logan Grimnar is pretty durable, there are plenty of armies with the means to bring him down relatively quickly. If you're considering taking Logan Grimnar, unless you know your opposition absolutely won't possess the means to dispatch him at range, I'd seriously consider a unit of Wolfguard for him as bodyguards. Their durability, particularly with the shield loadout, will soak up attacks and enable him to wreak melee carnage on the enemy. With Deep Strike, Logan Grimnar can join a unit of Terminators in orbit and drop down onto the battlefield 9 inches away from the enemy unit. This is usually going to be worthwhile since it'll allow him to pick his foes and get close to the enemy quickly. His Arjac of Fenris ability complements this nicely too. This ability allows you to pick any Space Wolves unit and set them up in strategic reserve and place them onto the battlefield 1 turn sooner. Rules as written, it does not have to include Logan Grimnar, but it can. This means that the unit of choice is coming in on turn 1. That's pretty strong, and in some matchups could seriously disrupt your opponent's strategy if they haven't planned accordingly. You'll probably use this on Logan and his unit if they're deep striking, so that his second ability can be active as soon as possible. That second ability, Guile of the Wolf, gives Logan Grimnar a 12-inch aura that adds 1 CP to the cost of any stratagems that your opponent applies to units within this bubble. This is a useful tax. Remember, command rerolls are stratagems too, and as such, if your opponent wants to reroll anything within 12 inches of Logan Grimnar, they're going to have to pay 2 CP instead of 1 CP. Otherwise, it's going to make them think twice about buffing a unit to try and take on the Great Wolf and his unit as well. Getting +1 to hit isn't going to benefit him as standard in Saga of the Hunter since he's hitting on 2s anyway, but once you've completed the saga, he'll get +1 to wound as well. That's a big one for him. His strike mode is going to wound toughness 5 opponents on a 3+ unmodified. Taking this to 2+ will really increase the output of those damage 3 attacks. Saga of the Bolt has some great buffs for the Great Wolf. He'll get the option to reroll either a hit or a wound roll when fighting or shooting. Once the saga's completed, he can reroll a hit and a wound roll. Dropping lethal hits on Logan Grimnar, particularly if he's in a unit with Wolfguard Terminators for 1 CP through Inspiring Presence, is a really good buff for the unit and for Logan. I also think keeping Heroic Reserve in mind, it's 2 CP, but it is worthwhile. If the opponent targets big guns on Logan, -1 damage could keep him alive. In Saga of the Bestial, Logan Grimnar will get lethal hits against monsters, characters, and vehicles from turn 1, and then everything once the saga is completed. I really like Unbridled Ferocity for him. That's a +1 to wound for CP. Again, that could be useful for going from 3+ to 2+ against tougher opponents. I also like the 2 situational stratagems for Logan to keep his 12-inch aura where you want it. Thunderous Pursuit for a CP means he can move 6 inches when an enemy comes within 9 inches of him as a reactive move. Coordinated Strike for a CP to pick him up and pop him into reserve if he's 9 inches from a board edge. You'll only want to do this if he's really in danger of getting wiped out, or if you need to reposition him because he's too far away from the action. In isolation, Logan Grimnar meets the 110 points price tag. He definitely isn't undercosted, but I also don't think he's too expensive in general. As long as he stays within this point region and it doesn't creep up in future balances from Games Workshop, he'll get loads of play and casual play because he's such a great hobby project thematic character and people will buy into his lore. He'll not be oppressive on the table in casual settings. He'll be tough to bring down in a unit of Terminators, but he's also not going to tear through an army on a whim. His abilities are good and impactful, without being game-changing. In competitive play, he'll probably get some play based around his special abilities. Taking him as a leader option, though, would mean taking a squad of Terminators, and while that's not necessarily a bad decision, it does make for a very expensive character unit that might struggle to provide the return on investment compared to other units. This has been a problem with Terminators in competitive 40,000 for quite some time now. Other obvious options could be to take units of Headtakers led by Wolf Priests or Battle Leaders, or a big block of Bloodclaws with Ragnar Blackmane, all of which would be under Logan's cost with 5 Terminators. You could alternatively take Logan by himself and run him solo. His 12-inch CP tax will still be impactful, and as long as he's alive, against a lot of foes, he'll win the day in melee. He'll probably get shot down against many targets that have the range firepower to do so, so it'll be down to whether or not he does enough on the table before that moment in time to earn his 110 points price tag at this stage as to whether he's worth it. Will I buy the model? Oh yes. Will I play him with a Terminator unit in casual play because he's Logan Grimnar and just a little bit awesome? Yes again. In competitive play, when my point selection is going to angle more towards return on investment, I'll give him a go. Probably running solo first, as I don't really like the look of the points cost of him and a unit of Terminators together, given the output I'll probably get from them. I predict this is how many people will approach Logan Grimnar in competitive matchups. Arjac Rockfist is also known as the Anvil of Fenris. This humble warrior of a few words now stands as Logan Grimnar's most trusted champion and bodyguard. Prior to joining Logan's great company and his ascension into the Sky Warriors, Arjac was a trainee blacksmith of the Bearclaw tribe. His promise had made him marked out for Iron Priesthood. Arjac's true calling to greatness was revealed when he rallied a small group of Iron Priests to defend the great forges and priesthood of the Iron Islands to defend themselves against a tide of kraken spawn that had risen from the depths of Fenris's churning seas during a volatile summer. He defied the command of the most senior Iron Priest in order to save the lives of many of his brethren until Logan Grimnar and his warriors were able to arrive and reinforce their position. Logan Grimnar was so impressed by the bravery and strength of Arjac that he made the Iron Priest his champion on the spot. Arjac has served faithfully and loyally as one of Logan's personal Wolfguard bodyguard ever since. Unlike many of his brothers, Arjac does not boast about his deeds. Despite the great number of feats and acts of heroism he's accomplished in the name of his lord, the quiet giant of a man towers above his brethren and prefers to carve out his legend with his favourite Warhammer. At time of recording, Arjac Rockfist is 95 points. He has a Wolfguard Terminator profile with 6 wounds to set him apart. Naturally, this means he's also got the Wolfguard Terminator durability. He can decide 2, so he has the ability to start in reserve and come down on turn 2, more than 9 inches away from the enemy unit. Foe hammer can be used at range as Arjac throws the hammer and uses miniaturized teleporters to bring it back to his gauntlet. This gives him a single 6-inch ranged attack hitting on 2 plus at strength 8, AP -2 and 3 damage. These attacks have anti-monster, anti-vehicle 3+, as well as assault. So you could look at that 6-inch range and be forgiven for thinking it'll never be used. But in practice, assault means that Arjac can throw his hammer after advancing. Using a stratagem to give him advance and charge means you can get him into range, chip 3 wounds off an enemy monster or vehicle before making the charge in to finish them off in melee. Speaking of which, when he does charge in, it brings 5 attacks hitting on 2 plus, strength 8, AP -2 and damage 3. These attacks also come with anti-monster and anti-vehicle 3+. They also come with precision as a trait. This all combines nicely with his Champion of the Kingsguard ability, which gives him reroll to hit and wound against character units. Inside a Wolfguard Terminator unit, Arjac makes them a real threat to vehicles, monsters, and character units, particularly when combined with the Saga and buffs. His Anvil of Endurance ability means that when he leads a Wolfguard Terminator's unit, the unit gets Fight on Death on a 4+. This complements the Wolfguard Terminators perfectly, and it'll make throwing them at the enemy characters, monsters, or vehicles even more effective, even if they don't kill it in one go. There's a chance they can still do extra damage when it strikes back. I'm more inclined towards Arjac than Logan Grimnar as a leader for my Wolfguard Terminator unit at this time. He absolutely escalates their already debatable challenge of getting return on investment, but 95 points feels like sound trade-off for giving them a nice bit of extra bite against enemy vehicles, characters, and monsters, as well as Fight on Death. In Saga of the Hunter, the +1 to hit is rarely going to make a difference for Arjac since he's already hitting on 2s, but after you've killed 3 enemy units in Strike Force games, he'll get +1 to wound as well. That's going to be huge if he's taking on enemy characters. With precision, he can target the character in the unit, and if they're toughness 7 or less, he's wounding on 2+ with the Saga buff. With rerolls to wound thanks to his Datasheet ability, that's huge. At AP -2 and damage 3, he's a 95-point character that could assassinate enemy leaders with ease in melee in a lot of cases. Could be a real thorn in the side for your opponent. The reroll opportunities in Saga the Bold are useful, but access to Alpha Strike for advance and charge for a CP is the order of the day for Arjac, I suspect. Move 6-inch, advance into 6-inch range, chuck your hammer to hopefully chip 3 wounds off, then charge in on the enemy monster, character, or vehicle to batter them with foe hammer in melee. Heroic Resolve for 2 CP is expensive, but -1 damage to a single attack could keep him alive to fight another turn if he doesn't take down his prey in one go. Given his native abilities, Arjac feels like he wants to take on characters, monsters, and vehicles, so getting lethal hits against them from turn 1 with Saga of the Beastslayer is unbrand. Unbridled Ferocity for +1 to wound for a CP, just remember that it doesn't stack with the anti-traits, but it could still be useful getting 2+ to wound against opposing Terminator-esque infantry or characters. If you've watched any previous videos on this channel, you know I think highly of reactive moves, and Thunderous Pursuit for 1 CP to move 6 inches when an enemy moves within 9 of your Space Wolves unit is really useful. You could use it to get Arjac into trouble or out of trouble, depending on your fancy. If a unit moves in to try and screen him, you might be able to readjust accordingly and spoil their day. I'm not madly enthusiastic about running characters solo unless they have lone operative, but that could be because a number of my regular opponents run Tau and like to pummel my melee armies from afar. I do think Arjac's datasheet wants him to be in a unit of Wolfguard Terminators, and between him and Logan Grimnar, if I was running one unit of Terminators, he's the one I'd pop in it. Fight on Death in melee for a 4+ is a strong buff for the unit, and they're durable enough to get into scraps with big monsters, especially with their rugged resilience ability, which is exactly where Arjac wants to be. If I wasn't taking a unit of Wolfguard Terminators, would I take Arjac in my army? In casual play, nothing is never no as far as I'm concerned, but in competitive play, I don't see that I would. If I want a roaming character to score or be a nuisance, a Battle Leader is 7-inch move with a 4+ invulnerable save and 5 wounds for only 65 points. They're a much better choice for this. They also have a nice amount of melee output if they're ambushed by a fast attack unit that wings around your main force. Both of the new sculpts for these characters are perfect, heroic, and fitting representations for 2 of the Space Wolves' most prominent characters. They'll find their way into my collection, and casually, I'm looking forward to creating new sagas in their names. Competitively, I'm certain I'll try both, but whether I take one or the other will almost entirely depend on whether I take a unit of Wolfguard Terminators. At this stage, the question will be who. I think I'll likely take Arjac Rockfist inside the unit and run Logan Grimnar solo initially, get a feel for how this works. In the case of both units, it will be seeing whether or not they can justify the points versus some other impactful utility choices that the Space Wolves do have. But I do love that these characters feel different and they bring something of their own to the tabletop that can't really be achieved anywhere else in the army. If Logan's CP tax and ability to bring Arjac and his Terminators down on turn 1 proves that it makes these 2 units effective, they may yet prove to be something you can build your army around. If this video has been at all useful, please like and subscribe to show your support for this new channel. If you've got your own take on these new characters, share them in the comments, particularly if you've got some lore points I didn't cover, something you want to share with others, or in-game considerations others might benefit from. Thanks for watching. Keep hobbying.